Namaste. Welcome to Buddha's teaching. Today's topic, I'm going to talk about the traps of our mind. What is the trap, or what are the different kinds of traps that we have? Okay, so as the word implies, the trap is something that keep us in a confined place. So, for example, nobody, I cannot say nobody, 99.9% of the people do not want to be in prison, right? Do not want to be in the jail, in the prison, do not want to be confined in a small room, have no place to go, right? So that's like a prison cell, right? Jail cell, or some kind of small room that you can only allow to reside in that one place, just like a jail. So you have no freedom, right? Nobody wants to be in that situation, right? It prohibits us. It prohibits our freedom. It prohibits our wellness, our well-being, our happiness, and all that, because we all know it's not pleasant at all to be in a prison cell, right? Or to be in a jail, even though they let you out a little bit into the courtyard, but it's still confined within the fence of the jail or of the prison. So that's a box that people are kept physically, okay, physically. So that is called jail. That is a cage in a way that keep people in, and nobody wants that. Nobody most people don't want to be in that situation, regardless of whether what they do, whether they thief or robbers or whatnot. They still try to evade. They still try to escape from the authority so that they stay out of jail. Okay, so now that's on the physical side. But what I'm talking about here, the traps of our mind, we are talking about our mental trap. Okay, so what is it? As our default mind goes, okay, believe it or not, okay, our default mind is trapped within itself. All right. So what do I mean by that? When I say that our default mind, the mind of our ordinary lay people, the mind is trapped within itself. Okay, without knowing that it is being trapped. Okay, so the trap in this case, okay, is the trap that we have, is the trap in our own views. Okay, we develop certain views based on opinion or whatnot, and so because of that, we most of the time think that our view is right. So we defend our view, right? We are trapped within our view, within our thoughts, based on our own life experiences. Okay? Now, and the other trap is called emotional trap. Okay? We are caught in emotional trap. So, for example, we have some kind of desire, we have some kind of greed of going after something, we have some kind of craving. Okay, so because of that, there is this emotion within us, all right, that keep us thinking about desire, that keep us thinking about greed, okay, craving, attachment to whatever that we go after, or attachment to the dislike of something that happened to us, okay, that is called an attachment also. So now we walk in, not we, now our mind walks into that emotional trap, okay, the trap of pursuing that craving, the trap that is pursuing that desire, the trap that is pursuing that greed, okay, or that emotion that we have, okay, the trap of jealousy, the trap of hate, and all that. So now our mind walks itself into that thinking box, okay, and once it goes into that thinking box, okay, it sort of traps itself within that box, within that confinement, okay, and it keeps moving around within that box, all right, whatever it is, it keep thinking about it, keep holding on to it, keep trying to pursue it or trying to fight it, okay, within that box, okay. So at that particular moment, our mind traps itself inside a cell, okay, that it built for itself. When the mind has an emotion, okay, the mind walks itself into a trap that it creates for itself, all right, and it got stuck in that box and keep thinking about it, okay. So if you, let's say, a mind that is trying to pursue some kind of fame, a mind that is pursuing a lot of money, a mind that is pursuing a person, a mind that is pursuing some kind of happiness, okay, a mind that is pursuing all kinds of things, okay. So the mind walks itself into that cell, into that trap, and it gets itself stuck in there. Whenever that scenario, because the mind has many boxes or many cages that it traps itself within, okay. An angry mind, for example. So let's say you are angry with somebody, okay. It's not just for most of the people, it's not that just and then you angry and then you forget about it. For most people, the mind cling on to that anger, okay. It keep thinking about it, keep thinking about what the person say, keep thinking about what the person did, and all that. So now the mind trap itself, okay. It's, our own mind create that cell for itself, and it's trapped itself in it, clinging on to it, okay, having a heavy emotion about it, okay. And then it starts, thinking, and now this repetition thought running in the head about the events, about what happened, okay. So this is the function of our ordinary mind, okay. And throughout our life, we have so many of these cages. The mind builds so many boxes, small box, big box, medium size box, or big box, whatever. The mind creates its own trap, okay. But unfortunately, it's an invisible trap, okay. The mind does not recognize. It's an invisible trap. So when time arises, when triggers whatever triggers the mind, the memory, okay, about, let's say, something happened yesterday, something happened 2-3 hours ago, something happened last year, 10 years ago, right? And all that. Something triggers, and when that triggers, our mind, boom, okay, get into that that cage, or into the box, that we built, that the mind built before. Okay, it's like a little trap that the mind built for itself, and it's sort of like, put it aside somewhere for a while, and then when the something happened and the triggers, or you've been thinking about it, boom, that cage come back, and the mind is go into that trap, into that cell, into that box, and keep thinking about it. Okay, this is how most of us ordinary people, our mind trap itself, okay, within whatever emotion, within whatever desire, anger, jealousy, hatred, sadness. There's so many boxes and so many cages that the mind create, okay, over the years. The mind is in the habit of creating that, all right, throughout the lifetime of every single one of us. It creates some kind of, view, okay, emotion, whatnot, and it traps itself within that particular emotion. And it could also be a happy emotion, a good emotion also, okay. So let's say you went on some kind of vacation to some place that you had a lot of fun and all that. So the mind traps itself within that, that place. When you think about that place, the mind go, come up. You see, the mind get itself into that, and that particular box in that time is a happy scenario. So within that, the mind is doing all the, the thinking and running around within that particular cell, or in that particular trap. So now the mind is trapped in that happy box, right? So the box that the mind creates is like that. But it's fine if we have a lot of happy boxes, a happy cell, and that is all good. It gives us at least a better approach to life than having the negative boxes, small or big, it doesn't matter. Okay, and sometimes the box can be very strong, very rigid, very heavy. Okay, so so this is how our mind, right? This is how our mind react, and the emotion, which is the reaction, of course, that we have. Now, when the mind walk itself into the trap, okay, and when walk itself into the trap of emotion, and when it build the box to trap itself in there, and it keep thinking about the same thing over and over again, the mind has this tendency of keep itself clinging to that very same scenario for a while, okay, depending on whatever happened. Okay, let's say you had a disagreement, or you had a fight with somebody, then after that, with the next 2-3 hours, or the next day, or the next week even, right, the mind is stuck, trapped itself inside that box, keep thinking about the person. Okay, and what if, and I say this, and she said that, or she had, he did this, or he shouldn't have said that, or all kinds of mental activities that clings to that particular scenario, that clings to that particular event. So the mind, when in this situation, that's what we call the mind that trap itself, okay, inside that emotional box or emotional cell that the mind built for itself. Okay, so that's how most of our mind works. And the problem for us ordinary people is that that's all we know. Okay, that's all we know. We travel from one box to the next. Okay, I mean our mind. All right, our mind walk into some kind of trap throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout our lifetimes. Okay, there's so many traps that our mind walk into and lock itself in there. Okay, it's just because it is invisible, you can't see. But if you can see, there's so many boxes, small, big, and yes, whatever experience scenario, the mind walk itself into that particular cell and think about it for a while. Let's say last year, for example, you had some kind of event going on, and the mind built itself a box, a trap that the mind walk into, think about it, and then after a while, because of the law of impermanence, right? It doesn't stay in the mind forever. The mind sort of like put that box aside, okay, somewhere, and it walks itself into a different kinds of emotion or a different kind of trap, and it box itself in that particular box or scenario again, another box, okay, and then we do this all over the place, all the time. Okay, that's what our mind does. We box it that, and that's it's all the emotional and the memory, and we keep experience, we keep accumulate thing, all of those different kinds of memories and things like that, and we stack it up and we archive it, right? Put it in our warehouse, right? In memory, and whenever we meet a certain triggers that trigger that memory, that trigger that event, the box, our memory go to retrieve that box back, and there we are again, inside that box again, right? And that's our mind, that the mind that keeps doing that throughout our life without understanding that is just a trap, a box, or the gel cells that the mind builds or create for itself, right? So the mind, our mind, imprison itself without knowing it. Okay, what does that imprisoning means? It means that the mind has the attachment. Okay, it clings to whatever event that it happened at whatever particular time. It's a box of experience, of emotion that we have, and it's stuck there. It's inside that box. Okay, that is due to the view, due to the mind's view, right? I wouldn't say our view, due to the view of the person at that particular moment. So now it's boxed in. So the different emotion is boxed in everywhere, all over the place, and it's stacked away. And because of that, as you know, the mind that has so many boxes, okay, the mind that locked itself up in so many boxes, okay, that mind is that mind feels so confined, feels so stressed. Okay, the mind does not feel free. All right, and the mind does not know that it's doing it to itself. Okay, just like when people in the prison, you find that you're in a small area. The same thing with our mind. When our mind builds so many boxes, build itself so many cage, okay, and it box itself up, all the emotional things, okay, different emotion from one day to the next. It's boxed up in so many boxes around. The mind becomes clutter. All right, the mind is not clear. The mind is, of course, not free. It's heavy. The mind carries so many emotional boxes, emotional cages that the mind built for itself, right? So because of that, the mind, it's difficult for the mind to find a way out or to find true happiness in life, because the mind keeps creating all of this trap that it walks itself into and box itself into that emotional box or cage. Okay, and the mind does not realize or is not aware that there is a way that the mind can release itself from all of those boxes. That the mind does not know that it has a way to liberate itself, to free itself, okay, from all those boxes that the mind built, okay, from the trap that the mind walked itself into. Okay, the mind does not, the ordinary mind, our lay people, is not aware of and what we call escape route. Okay, the mind does not know that. All the mind does for the lay people is that it walks itself into some kind of scenario, some kind of emotion, blah 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 blah, lock itself into that box of emotion, in that cage, and stash it away, stock, for later use, right? The mind itself does not realize that there's, with all of this accumulation of the different cage, that the mind built for itself, the mind becomes heavy, becomes convoluted, becomes dark, and all that. And the ordinary mind does not know how to free itself from all of this. Okay, the ordinary mind does not know that there is a way, an escape route out of this. There's a way to liberate itself, okay, from all of this trap, okay, that the mind built for itself. All the trap, there is an escape route. But for most of the people, unfortunately, who never come across this teaching, will never find that escape route. Okay, unfortunately, that's how it goes. So the escape route, of course, is to look at things by going through the teaching. Then we can see, oh, this is what the mind is doing, right? The conceit mind, okay, has built itself a trap that it walks itself into it and close the door. That is the conceited mind, okay? And that conceited mind is that self-I, okay? The self-I is the conceited I that built itself, that creates itself a trap, walk itself into that trap, into the cage, build a cage, close the door, lock the door, and throw away the key. Okay, that is it. That is my fact. That is the truth. Okay, so because of that, the mind is always, for us ordinary people, the mind always live in a maze. Okay, or in the Buddha's word, that the world live in darkness. Okay, and that's why when the Buddha arrives, the Buddha is the light, is the beacon that show the way for people to liberate itself, meaning to liberate our own mind from the self-conceited I, right? that is that look at itself as is something through our own experience, through our own view to things. Okay, so the self-conceited I always build the wall. Okay, always build the cage. Okay, and put itself in there and say that's it. Okay, that's how it is. Okay, and that becomes very, very rigid, right? It's very very heavy, right? So of course this conceited I is due to the self ignorance. Okay, ignorance is at the base of the self-conceited I. All right, because the self-conceited I look at things as if everything does not change. The self-conceited I does not understand the law of impermanence. Okay, that is taught by the Buddha. Okay, does not have a direct understanding. Okay, it sometimes sort of hear about it that yeah, everything is changing all the time. You know, a lot of people say that, but they don't really understand it truly. You know, all the way through that. You know, nothing remains. Everything is always changing, and this mind is always changing. People are always changing. Okay, emotion always changing depending on different condition and all that. Okay, and without that true understanding, the self-conceited I cling on to a cage that it's built, it solidify itself, okay, as something permanent, right? Which in true reality is that nothing is permanent. Okay, so ignorance, when we have ignorance, of course people live in fear, live in sadness, right? Live in depression, live in anger, okay, and all that. The mind is confined, it's not free, right? And it shows in the person's personalities, and it shows in the person's facial expression, the body expression, and even the physical health of the person. Because remember, the mind and the body, they depend on each other. The mind can affect the physical well-being, and the physical well-being can also affect the mind, right? So if the mind, doesn't matter how well the body is built, if the mind keeps building itself many emotional boxes, okay, and put it in, after a while this body will be affected by that negative activity, by the negative emotional boxes that it stores, right? It stores in the memory, which is the whole body. Feel it, not just in here. The whole body is memory, okay? And because and as you know, when you're sick, it's not that you're sick in one particular place. The whole body feels it, right? So of course, so now the mind affects the body, right? So for us ordinary people, we do not know what liberation is, and that's what the Buddha taught. Liberate yourself. Okay, that's where the Buddha pointed to: liberate yourself from all this attachment, this clinging, this desire, greed, hatred, and all that the mind built. Okay, if you release all of that by understanding the law of impermanence, okay, non-self, right, anatta. Then once the mind realizes the ultimate truth of reality through Buddha's teaching, the mind stop clinging, stop walking, stop creating itself the trap that it will walk into. Okay, because the mind realized that there's nothing there. Okay, before the mind, when the mind is angry at somebody, let's say, okay, now the mind create a trap that it walk itself. When the mind is angry, that is the trap, and now the mind walk into that trap and lock itself in there. Okay, and lock itself in there, and it can't get out, right? So there's no awareness, okay, of what it's doing to itself. Okay, so because the mind think of itself as an existing entity or something, without understanding the law of impermanence. Okay, so one of the things that if people want to get a better understanding of the law of impermanence, I would encourage, okay, people to pay a visit to the cemetery, often, to see all the beings who used to be being, now where are they? Or you pay the visit to the hospice, pay the visit to the children's hospital, and see if we can sort of like wake up a little bit to understand the impermanence of this physical body. So that is just one of the little things that we can keep reminding ourselves. Okay, once we become less attached, right? When we become less attached to this emotion, then we don't build the trap. Then the mind will not, become so conceit and become like this and build itself a cage and box itself in there. The mind will say like, no, it's okay, I can let go of that emotion, right? The negative emotion that it just arises. So, okay, that is just another trap, right? Let's say an angry emotion arises. Oh, that's a trap that the mind built, and the mind wants to walk itself into that trap. No, that's okay. Let it go. Another scenario happens, some event happens, some unfortunate event happens, and the mind has another sad trap, a trap that is being sad, a victimhood, right? A victim of circumstance. Now that's a trap that the mind wants to build and walk itself into there, become sad, become depressed or whatnot, right? Why me, and all that. That's a trap that when we become realize of the trap, you say, no, that is just an event. That is the emotional mind. That is just an unwholesome reaction of the mind to certain experience, to certain event. So an awakened mind, when the awakened mind see a trap rising, the awakened mind says, oh, that's anger, that is sadness. Oh, jealousy, that's a trap, right? Conceit, that's a trap. Okay, fear, oh, that's a trap. All of this unwholesome trap that keep rising, it will fall away based on, of course, our very understanding of the different kind of mind activities, right? The different kinds of mental activity that's happening in us, within all of us. due to different experiences, due to different triggers that we all encounter based on the different condition through our six senses, right? So the different ingredient, the different mind faculties that make up all this emotion, okay? There are different kinds of mind faculties that, generate all this emotion. And once we understand all that, then we can step back and look, these are just different scenario, and these are the traps that the mind built for itself, okay? There's wholesome traps and there's unwholesome traps that the mind builds and then walk itself into it, okay? And so all those traps there, those are the reaction of the mind, okay? And that is something that we all have to train, right? The mind needs training. If we don't train the mind, the mind will just operate on the default mode, which is the ignorance mode, right? If you don't train this mind, the mind will always operate on the default mode. And the default mode is ignorance, right? And we all know what ignorance leads us to, okay? So that's why it's so important for us to understand, to study Buddha's teaching, because this is the teaching for all of us. This is a teaching to liberate us from this cage, from this self-imprisonment cell, all right, to warn us about the different traps that our mind creates for itself, okay? So that's what the teaching is for, to make us aware of the different traps that the mind can create for itself, okay? And because for most of us lay people are not aware of these traps, people walk into the traps every single day, okay? Build itself a cage, lock itself up in the emotional prison, and that is unfortunate, but that's how the world operates. That's how a human being operates. That's how a mind operates. That's how everything is here. A human being here operates. All right, so that's what I like to share with you all today. I hope you understand what this means, all right? The traps that the mind built for itself. Until next time, I like to pay respect to the Triple Gems. I like to pay respect to the Buddha. I like to pay respect to the Dharma. And I like to pay respect to the Sangha. Namaste.